Hello, guys, and welcome back to Crazy Mo Kickoff. Today, I'm joined by JJ from Kloppzone and James from Kloppzone to talk Liverpool transfers, including Núñez, Carvalho, and potentially some more. And then I'm joined by Mike from the Unholy Trinity Everton podcast to talk about a potential takeover and the exit of Farhad Moshiri. So, we'll start with you guys from Kloppzone, which I can announce that I have recently joined as well. Exciting times ahead.
Welcome.
But it's also exciting times ahead for Liverpool fans in terms of the addition of Darwin Núñez. What are your thoughts on it, JJ?
I'm excited by the signing. I think Liverpool have come to we've got to a certain level, but I feel that it's not been enough, unfortunately. City are spending the amounts of money they are, and they're pipping us every time. And when you look at it, one Premier League in 5 years, it doesn't look great on paper. So I do feel we need to change, and I feel like Núñez is the way that we're going to do it, because I feel it completely transforms the way we're going to attack and the way our squad is focused. Obviously, with Núñez being the focal number 9.
Yeah, James, what are your thoughts on the move?
I'm buzzing to see Núñez. You know, right from when we played Benfica, like I was chatting with the Kloppzone boys in the group chat, and I was saying, look, Darwin Núñez is somebody that we need. And like I saw somewhere that Klopp was studying his footage at the training ground for so long, and he was like, yeah, instantly he wanted Darwin Núñez. Like him and Virgil have spoken to him for like during the Benfica games, and you know it's Liverpool fans wanted the club to break the structure. They're breaking the structure and spending big. Yes, they're going to get it back from the Mane sale and Ox, maybe Taki as well. So they're breaking the structure, and it's the sort of player that we need.
Yeah, I suppose. And from a tactical perspective, especially, how do you think it'll impact the way we play, JJ?
I do feel as though the emphasis on our wide forwards, so Salah and Diaz, we're not going to be as reliant on them to get the goals. I do feel that with a focal number 9, I don't feel that Salah can actually come and occupy that same space. I do feel he's going to pull out wider, which then allows obviously that right-hand channel with the number 8 or Trent to go and obviously put balls in for Núñez to score. And obviously you've got Salah, as wide as he is, obviously creating and trying to beat his next man. And there's a shift from that Salah kind of focus. And I do feel that obviously epitomizes what's going on with the contract and everything as well. So I do think it can be big if it does work, which hopefully it does. I mean, Liverpool don't hardly get it wrong, do they?
Not very often, but is there not a danger, James, that the over-reliance on Mo Salah, like in terms of Núñez coming in and maybe taking that away, the Salah's contributions not then drop?
I mean, potentially, but I also think Núñez coming in takes the pressure off of Salah having to deliver so much for the team like he has been, because we've relied on Salah so much, and when he doesn't play, the team looks so uncreative. Like I know Salah creates so much. Núñez coming in, we've all seen how he plays. He draws the defender with him, and I think the way that he'll run between the defenders, I think will create a lot more space for Salah to go into and hopefully score goals. But hopefully, well, not as many, but obviously it will be Salah, so we'll still score loads of goals regardless.
Yeah, that could be right. I'm excited just by the fact we've got an out-and-out number 9.
Exactly.
Just like the likes of Firmino and Jota. Yes, Jota scored a bit more than Firmino, but still not banging in like 20 goals a season, are they? Whereas Núñez looks like the type of player. I argued that it's the perfect reaction to Haaland in one of my articles this week. But Liverpool expert Sam Maguire, he argues it's actually not, and Liverpool would have made this move if it wasn't carefully planned by the recruitment department. Which, looking at the numbers and looking at the way he plays, maybe it is like, as you said, a transition to a new system kind of thing.
Yeah, I do feel that from what I've read as well, Liverpool have been monitoring from youth level. So from when you were 17, 18 playing in Uruguay, in the Uruguayan divisions, they've been monitoring since then and watching his progression season in, season out. So we've seen when Liverpool spend big, it's not just an out of the blue kind of thing or situation. They carefully plan and then execute wherever it is they want to go, and obviously purchase and how they want to go about the transfer market. You look at Diaz. We've been monitoring Diaz from ages ago. We wanted him for the summer, but we brought him in January just because Tottenham were in for him. So it does suggest that we have a plan in place, and this shift towards Núñez was in the plan. Klopp knew that there's going to come a time where the front three is going to have to, transition and develop. We might get rid of a Mane as we're seeing, and this is just the kind of the natural evolution. And although to us fans it sometimes feels as though it's quite reactionary, and we're seeing, oh my God, Haaland and Núñez, and they're trying to match them up, we're much more thought out, and I think we're much more cerebral in that sense.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it will probably likely lead to a switch in formation. Many have touted the 4-2-4 or a 4-2-3-1. That leads me on to another one of Liverpool's new signings, Fabio Carvalho. Where do you think he fits? Does he start a couple of games? Does he not start at all and be a bench option? JJ, what do you think?
I personally wouldn't want to put that kind of responsibility on a player that's just come from the Championship to be our linchpin as an attacking midfielder and being the sole creator, the main creator through the centre. Carvalho is amazing. He's great. I think there's a lot of potential. And unless he just pulls up trees like how Dele Alli has in the past, I would prefer to either maybe potentially see Jones in that position, Elliott, or we get, another midfielder in that can kind of create that spot, because I do feel we're missing an attacking a goal-scoring midfielder, a creative midfielder within our squad.
Yeah, I think personally for me, Elliott or Carvalho can fill in that role. Elliott looked to kick on at the start of last season, obviously before that horrific injury. I would maybe give them a chance, because Carvalho's numbers while it's in the Championship, they're incredible. And he has got Premier League experience too from his time when Fulham were in the Premier League, and I think he scored against Southampton. I think he might be ready.
I mean, it's something that. Well. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I do feel we should definitely give it a chance. And if it does work, I'm 100% not opposed to it. But I do feel that we're in a stage of our kind of development. We're not 4 or 5 years ago where even Trent was coming into the team, and it was like, yeah, we can throw Trent in there. We wouldn't do the same with Nico Williams or Ramsey and just tell him, oh, you know what, you're going to be our starting fullback, because I do feel we're at a period of our kind of development where it's now, we're trying to win now. We're trying to win the Premier League, win the Champions League. And because of just the sample size is so small, I can't see Liverpool or us playing a Carvalho there and expecting them to, pull trees up. I do hope they would, but I don't want that over-reliance, because I do feel when Elliott came back after his injury, there was a kind of, you saw that there was a dip. I mean, the game he played in the Champions League against Inter Milan, he did seem a bit kind of out of sorts. And yeah, of course, you could attribute it to obviously his injury, but not only that, it's his age. I mean, we're talking about someone that's 17, 18 years, he's got 10 years left of his career. I mean, to be the starting number 10 in Liverpool, that's a massive thing. And I mean, if Carvalho's got the talent to do it, I'm someone just chuck him in. But I would prefer to us to get someone established, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, certainly. So on to some other. You mentioned Trent Alexander-Arnold when you was talking there, and we might be getting a backup right back for him finally. What do you make of Calvin Ramsey? Have you seen it of him?
Myself, yeah.
I've not seen. I've not seen anything of him personally. But I've seen from Jack from Anfield Analytics. I've seen he's put a PowerPoint together of Jack Ramsey's like stats and everything. Look, he was Scottish Young Player of the Season. The season just finished, so from looking at the stats and his attributes, he could be a really good addition. But I think it's going to be another one of them with same as Fabio Carvalho. I don't think it's right for people to put loads of pressure onto them both. I think they've both got to come into a squad. They've got to bed into the squad and then be slowly integrated into the squad and not just be expected to perform the same as Trent does, the same as Mo Salah does, because it's just not going to happen. They're still young. You've still got to give them time to develop.
Yeah. I can see maybe Bobby Firmino taking on the number 10 role originally and sort of bedding Carvalho in like we did with Kanate, maybe. Do you get what I mean? I can see that happening myself.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing with Klopp, isn't it? Is I think Diaz is the only signing he's made where he's come straight into the squad. You know, Klopp signings always get a period of time to bed in with the squad before he puts like loads of pressure onto them. And I think that's just the right way of doing it. I mean, Diaz has come in and made a massive impact. So God knows what he's going to be like when he's had a full pre-season and he can understand English.
yeah. Klopp said he'd been playing on. He just told him to just play on instinct and not actually done any like tactical work with him for the last couple of months, which is crazy considering the impact he did have. When you think about it like that, yeah, definitely. Is there any more targets who you'd like us to like? If you have to throw one name out there, guys, so we'll start with JJ.
Are we talking realistic or
realistic?
Just optimistic?
Well, give us an unrealistic one and then give us a realistic one.
All right, my unrealistic one is Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the word on every Liverpool fan's lips. But is that a player we can actually get, especially this window, considering Borussia Dortmund have let go of Haaland? Are they going to let go of Bellingham this season as well? And are we going to fork out the money to go and get a Bellingham, which I don't know. You're looking at 80 million, in my opinion. They're going to try push it, especially because of they got done in that Haaland deal. I think we could all admit that. I mean, 54 million. I mean, that was a bit of a joke. So that's my unrealistic one. My realistic signing is Christian Eriksen on a free. I do feel that's someone that we can have on the bench. Gives us that kind of that option on set pieces, as well as that impact off the bench, just as Shaqiri had done previously. And he's someone that the likes of Elliott, Carvalho, even Jones, because he was a creative midfielder in the academy. It gives them someone to kind of base their game around. He's a top quality operator as a number 10 as well, and to get someone like that on a free, that could be the difference between 2-3 points that we missed out on in the league this year. So those are my two off the top of my head. Yeah,
James, some for you.
Mine's the same with JJ. It's like Jude Bellingham. I mean, there's no way that the club are going to go out and spend 70-80 million pound on Bellingham. Like, that's just unrealistic. And I think Eriksen's a good shout, but I think Barella could be a good shout from in. Is it Inter Milan? I think he is. Yeah, I know there was talks of Yves Bissouma as well, but he's going to Spurs. So I think don't know whether we've dodged a bullet with Bissouma there or not. I think it'll just be a case and seeing how he gets on with Spurs.
Yeah, the price is ridiculous. I mean, it's quoted as 25 million. Thereabouts. I mean, if he does work out, I mean, we've missed the trick there. We definitely missed the trick there, because I didn't expect him to go for that amount. That's a steal, definitely.
It's cheap, certainly cheap. Yeah. So we'll move on now to Everton, our neighbours across the Stanley Park, and we've got Mike from the Unholy Trinity. So, Mike, yeah, good. How are you feeling about these potential takeover rumours?
It's not surprising, to be honest. There's been murmurings for the last probably 6 months or so that there's American investors floating around, and we've been speaking to them. I think Farhad Mashiri was looking at investments as opposed to selling up altogether. That was the initial talk, anyway. Obviously, what he wants for the club is probably way above the valuation, but he wants it because of the fact that he's put so much money into the club in his time since he's been with us. So he's trying to recoup some of that. Obviously, one of the major selling points is the fact that Bramley Moore is underway, but whoever comes in, if it did happen, they have to commit to getting the stadium finished. So it's not a surprise that we've got this talk going on now. It all depends really what he wants to do and whether people will stump up the money to actually buy the club outright. because there's a lot of factors to take into account. One of the main ones being the fact that we've got this one, not this issue with the Premier League, but obviously Burnley and Leeds are taking exception to the financial side of things. From our perspective, it was signed off by the Premier League months ago. We've been speaking to them over the last 18 months. If they've got an issue, it's with the Premier League and not Everton. So that's our viewpoint. It's being checked over by independent people. So I don't envisage any issue there, but that's one of the things that this piece of Kenyan-led consortium are actually trying to get checked out. But they have been speaking again as of today, apparently talking positive. So we'll see. I think we always thought he would sell the club once Bramley-Moore opened. That'll be his legacy. He'll be able to make obviously some money on the club that way. But obviously with Usmanov ties being cut, that may be one of the key reasons as to why he's looking to move on so soon.
Yeah, and if you do end up moving on, how would you like the club to be run? Like, obviously, we've mentioned Liverpool's model and FSG in the conversation we had before we started recording. We've mentioned it since we started recording. Is that something you'd look to?
I think, the thing with Everton, there's a lot of fans are taking issue with the behind-the-scenes stuff, the off-field stuff. There's a lot of people who aren't fans of Bill Kenwright, a lot of people who aren't fans of Denise Barrett Baxendale. Marcel Brands has since moved on. So a lot of board members basically bring with them issues for certain fans. I think it sounds a bit daft, but we've got to get to a professional way of running the club. I don't think the club's run in the way it should be. A lot of stuff, good stuff we do with the Everton community stuff is a totally separate entity that we get plaudits for, and rightly so. But when it comes to actually run the football club, if it was run correctly, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in terms of our finances. We wouldn't have just been leaning on the cash of Farhad Moshiri to try and deal with the issues that we had when he came in. And that's put us in a poor situation. And if a takeover happens, they've got to bring proper football people in to do the relevant jobs. We sort of started with a new director of football with Kevin Thelwell. Obviously, Frank Lampard is in. They've got to work together. And this summer will be the first indication as to whether Farhad Moshiri, Bill Kenwright are allowing those two to get on with their jobs without interfering. That's the key thing. But there's still got to be changes made across the board, so we do become a more professional off-field outfit. Because I think the way things have gone in recent years, become a little bit of a laughing stock with people outside of the club.
Yeah, and obviously, while we probably certainly took joy out of Everton's plight last season, it would be interesting if Everton were up there again, like if they were fighting like at the very top even, because it's that rivalry. Then, do you know what I mean? Like. It's like when you're fighting Man United for the league title, or if you're fighting Everton for the league title, it brings another dimension to it.
Exactly, definitely. I do feel my best memories of going up against Everton were when Everton were under Roberto Martinez. And I did feel as though the style of football they played, the fact that they were causing us issues, we weren't as good. That really gave the kind of the derby, the Merseyside derby, a real bite to it. Now it doesn't have that same kind of effect. It's like you're kicking an animal or a person that's down. It's just the bragging rights aren't the same. And to go in, obviously, to be fair, personally, although I know Liverpool fans are really kind of like anti-Everton, I never wanted Everton to go down because I do enjoy the Merseyside derby. I do enjoy the history behind it, and it makes the city what it is as well. I mean, with Everton being in the Championship, I think it would have really affected the city as a whole and the people as a whole as well. So definitely.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, to be fair. I was the same. I was laughing at it, like I was enjoying it, but I didn't want them to go down. It wouldn't have been the Mr. Derby too much. Yeah, definitely.
I think with Everton, I think a lot of fans were like, "Oh, Everton could get relegated," but it wouldn't, like you lot have just said, it would have taken away the Merseyside derby, and everybody in the city looks forward to the Merseyside derby. And I think for me, the with Everton is they spend so much money and like they ended up being where they were, and it was just a weird situation. Whether it was the way that the club is run or whether it was more the tactics from Rafa, I don't know. But like the money they invested, they shouldn't have been on the verge of relegation.
I think it's an easy stick to beat us with in terms of the money which is being invested. Nobody shouldn't. But that squad at the start of the season, should have been nowhere near. It wasn't in anyone's minds that we were going to be anywhere near the bottom three. You were looking probably at a mid-table squad, if we're being perfectly honest. We spent 1.7 million, which was on Damari Gray, because of our financial situation. So we shouldn't have been anywhere near that. It was a perfect storm with the wrong manager straight away came in. I think we could all see that. We all gave him a chance, which you've got to do, because if you don't, it doesn't do the side any good. So we backed him as best we could. Didn't work out. Very, very stubborn man, which Liverpool players will justify. That's exactly what he's like. They'll testify to that. Gerard Carragher, they've all said it. He's a difficult man to please and to work with. But he had his best days 15 years ago. So I don't know why we thought, or our owner thought, that he was the best man for the job. So started off on a difficult footing. Once we hit a rough patch, it was tough to get out of. I mean, 1 win in 14 said it all, really. The writing was on the wall, and he should have gone well before that Norwich game, which was the final nail in the coffin. But it wasn't just that. Injuries were horrific yet again. Is that an issue behind the scenes? I mean, he fired one of the main medical staff in Danny Donaghy. Is that a problem? We look at refereeing decisions were horrific. I don't care what anyone says. There were some shockers for us. I know there was poor decisions across the board for every side. Look at our games, and I'm not even talking all season. I'm talking the second half of the season as well. So a lot of things went wrong and combined to make it a really difficult season. So I think, we're all glad it's over. It's just massive our We don't want to live it again. We've been there 3 times really since the Premier League kicked off. And our record speaks for itself in terms of how long we've been in the top flight for. We're a big club. We shouldn't be where we are. But a lot of mistakes are being made off the pitch. A lot of mistakes are being made on the pitch. The players aren't blameless because, at the end of the day, they're the ones who are, the minds your backs to go out there and get a result. But it's a big summer, difficult summer. Richarlison's going to be on his way. There'll be more links for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but by all accounts, Frank Lampard likes him a lot and has told him he wants to build a side around him. So I think there's more chance of Dom staying than there is Richarlison. And then we've got to reinvest part of that money, part of the wages saved on the likes of Delph, Sigurdsson, likes of Kenny. He wasn't on a great deal, but all these players who were on, who are now out of contract and have been moved on, we're going to see a bit of an upturn in terms of money saved as well. So we'll do some decent business. We've said Tarkowski off before. He's done. He'll be announced, I'm sure, this week. Good start to the window. But in terms of monetary transfers, that will run on and on, I think, until Richarlison's deal is sewn up. But we'll see. It's going to be a busy summer for incomers and outgoings, I think.
I've got a quick question just for Mike. I wanted, because from the outside looking in, I wanted to ask your take or whether you could attest to this. Do you feel that with Everton for a period there was a over-reliance on new signings and big money signings to give the club and the team a boost that enabled you to go and kind of compete and be a mid-table team as you were? And last summer, only signing Damari Gray and Rondon. Damari Gray, how much? I think it was under a million or so, wasn't he?
Yeah, 1.7 million. He wasn't.
1.7. So yeah, exactly. So signing Damari Gray and Rondon, it didn't have that same effect. Alongside the fact that Benitez was in charge, because I do feel if Benitez was given the funds to go and get who he wanted, or given a kind of an open checkbook, quote unquote, I do feel you may have not been in that same situation. I thought relying on Damari Gray, and he was fantastic in the early parts of the season, but relying on someone like that, it's as if Liverpool got rid of Mane and brought in someone worth 2 million. The kind of our fans would have been quite discontent, and we would have gone into the season with less optimism than we would have the season before, considering obviously where you guys ended up. So, sort of your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was a different kind of summer, and we knew it was going to be that way. Even then, the owner he wanted to go into the summer, and before Carlo Ancelotti went to Real Madrid, he was determined to give him tens of millions to keep on building until people were saying, listen, we can't do it. We can't do it because if we do it, we're in serious trouble. Then we're looking at point deductions and things like that. So he was still wanting to do that. And that's one thing that we can't criticise Moshiri for, in the sense that he's always put his hand in his pocket to try and support the manager. I think with us, it probably doesn't matter who you bring in a sense, because they lack direction. So what should really happen is there should be a structure in the club. I know Liverpool do it, Man City do it. All the teams from, say, the early teenage years all the way through to 23s in the first team play exactly the same way. However, they don't do that. So that's as big an issue as anything else. So it doesn't matter who you bring in, really. It was such a mismatch of players from different managers, different regimes, different systems, that, even bringing in star players wouldn't probably have had a great deal of impact. I mean, James Rodriguez is probably an example. Carlo Ancelotti did very well getting the points that he got in the previous season. But James, he looks great when it's lovely weather. It's nice. He can wear short sleeve shirts because it suits him. He's used to playing in warm weather. When the weather turned a little bit colder, he was always injured. He was crying off, and it was one of those where superstars are great, but it's got to be the right superstar for the right price with the right attitude. And Everton just weren't ready for that. The funny thing was, Luis Diaz was tied up. He was on his way to Everton until James Rodriguez refused to do the Porto.
Yeah.
So that deal was done. So he had done his medical. His contract was on the table. It was all good to go. And James cost us that. So sliding doors moment for him. Obviously, he's gone from one extreme with us to the other, I suppose, with Liverpool. But there's a lot of work got to be done from a recruitment perspective off the field to get the right structure. And we've got to start bringing players through to fit into a system that they know from playing in the 23s and the 18s, and which obviously is then part of the first team. That's probably the biggest issue for me. And then things become a lot easier when it comes to buying the right players.
So we'll wrap it up in a second.
One thing I want to ask.
Oh, go on. The last thing is, though, Mike, so how realistic do you think this takeover talk is?
It's definitely happening. It's definitely a thing. I don't think that what he's asking for is probably realistic in terms of it doesn't make much business sense, I suppose, for those coming in. But there's not just the Kenyan consortium. There's four groups of people talking to Everton at this moment in time. So there's definitely interest. It's definitely something which Fabio Moshiri is serious about. As I say, I think probably his stance has changed over the last sort of 6 months, or a bit less, 4 months or so, since obviously Usmanov was taken out of the equation and that money stopped. So I think it could happen. I think if it does, it happens probably sooner rather than later. But we'll see. It won't change our situation when it comes to transfers and money available, because we are where we are with the Premier League and with the profits and sustainability, and we can't change those figures. So it won't change that. So we've still got to be very savvy in our recruitments. We're still going to have to move on with Richarlison, as I said, and then try and do what we can do. But I think most definitely. And if it doesn't happen now, like I said, by the time we get to Bramley Moore, 2.5, 3 years time, I think then that's when you'll see definitely a changing of the guard, if not before, like I said.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. Follow all these guys on Twitter for me, please, everyone. And be sure to join us next time.
Thanks. Take it easy, Declan. Thank you.
See you later, guys.